Claudia unexpectedly has a boyfriend? I mean, we had a lot of different expectations about what Claudia would be doing the first time we saw her in Season 4, but I do not think that a lot of us had on our list of the kinds of things that we thought would happen that she would be introducing a new Earthblood elf boyfriend to her father, Viren. As a side note, I have to say that I kind of adore how Callum's ridiculous and slightly offensive Earthblood elf impression turned out to be accurate. They really are these cartoon versions of Australians, just as Moonshadow elves appear to be cartoon versions of Scottish people. But I think what's eerie about this scene is just how normal Claudia is when she's presenting her boyfriend to Viren. Obviously, Claudia normal is not the same as normal for a lot of people. She is a rather offbeat person, but for Claudia, this is kind of mundane. She is excitable, she is dorky and nerdy, and a little socially awkward. She's acting so cheery and bubbly and trying to get Viren to like Terry, even though Viren is quite understandably not happy to have this be the first scene he sees after waking up after being dead for 2 years. If this exact same scene had taken place in Season 1, it would have been funny. It would have been a bit cheerful, a bit lighthearted, a bit of comic relief. We would have laughed at how gruff and dour Viren is compared to the cheery, ebullient Claudia. We would have felt for the little socially awkward Terry, who has more than a few similarities to Callum, being a very bookish type of person. But after what we have seen Claudia do, after what we know she is capable of, after she nearly killed Ezrin, the king, and proved herself willing to do basically anything to defend her father and his ideals, seeing her act so sweet and cutesy is a bit unnerving. We're kind of left in the position of agreeing with Viren when he looks at this pairing skeptically. Viren has just been brought back from the dead, and he sees Claudia, after having performed such a macabre, possibly sacrilegious action, just acting so normal and cheery, and doing the typical teenage thing of introducing her boyfriend to her father. It's disorienting, and I wonder to what extent Claudia is going to at least keep up this cheery exterior as we progress through Season 4. I'm tempted to call it a facade, but for Claudia, it is not a facade. She has quite a bit of cognitive dissonance in her actions. Think about how she was willing to just gush over the little forest creatures and think how cute and adorable they are, while also thinking about grinding everything down into dark magic to use for her purposes. These are not dichotomous ideas to Claudia. There's not like one fake Claudia and one real Claudia. They're both the real Claudia. But these two sides of her are increasingly difficult to reconcile, leading her action... And because of that, her actions seem quite deranged to us. That Claudia can still pretend to be an innocent, naive, dorky teenager after attempting regicide is a bit haunting. She was willing to fight her brother even after he disrupted her plans to kill the prince. There are a lot of parallels people have drawn between Claudia and Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Perhaps a few too many. I don't think the characters are that similar, But one thing that they absolutely have in common is that they both were doused in attention by their callous father, and they both suffered in the long term because they were the sibling that always received so much attention. They grew to identify their well-being with that of their father and grew to seek their father's approval at all costs. And in both their cases, their fathers remained so rigid and so uncompromising that the daughters lost any ability to really change and improve themselves. Claudia has followed Viren down a dark path. When she knew that he wanted them to kill the princes if necessary, she didn't flinch. Even though Ezrin is a small child who has done nothing wrong, and Callum is a close friend of hers from childhood whom she had a budding relationship with. These other relationships matter to Claudia, but not as much as her fealty to Viren and his ideology. Even after Viren's ideals ended up getting him killed, she still stayed in that cave fighting to resurrect him. She has developed a monomaniac devotion to fulfilling Viren's ambitions, even if doing so brings her closer to Erebos. She has lost her relationship with Callum and her relationship with her brother. She has lost her place in Catalis as a prestigious member of society and the daughter of the king's top advisor. She's become deracinated from all that, and as such, she's lost her code of ethics. Lacking a real solid foundation of relationships and people that she can rely on, or a basic sense of certainty and clarity, she's become increasingly obsessive, and this is not going to be a happy thing to watch as we progress through Season 4. So what exactly is the deal with her being so upbeat in terms of her interactions with Terry, besides her Herculean amounts of cognitive dissonance? I'm reminded significantly of the portrayal of Elizabeth Holmes at the end of The Dropout. Great show, if you haven't seen it. I highly recommend it. At the end of the show, after the entire Theranos Empire has come crashing down, she pretends that she's some young, fresh-faced, bubbly girl excited about the future and all its opportunities professionally and in romance, as though the last decade of her life didn't happen, as though all the people she hurt didn't exist and she just got the chance to start over. I'm not sure that's a fair comparison to Claudia, but it is what I think of the most when I think of how she's acting. According to Jung, we need to be able to confront the darkness and the uncertainty within us if we want to live a balanced and harmonious life. It is a difficult process and a dangerous process, and confronting that darkness, not to conquer it, but to reconcile with it, to really look inside that shadow and see to what extent it contains parts of ourselves that we've been denying are parts of ourselves. And as much as it has the possibility of leading to the complete change and disruption of our basic sense of identity, it's an important process, because if we don't do that, if we just pretend that darkness doesn't exist and try to maintain this facade of orderliness and clarity, then we're not going to have a good time. We're going to suffer. We're cutting ourselves off from that wellspring of life and reflection and creativity and imagination and a willingness to really reconsider ourselves. And as such, we become rigid, leading to us feeling a bit enervated, a bit drenched in ennui at best, and at worst, we break down completely psychologically, which I think is probably going to happen to Claudia in the future. That she cares about Terry is quite likely. I don't think she's being fake with him. I think she genuinely thinks their relationship is cute and wants the best for both herself and Terry. But that is not going to stop her from sacrificing Terry if she has to achieve the grandiose, idealistic ends that she desires. That she is not going to maliciously cook Terry up into some dark magic stew does not mean that Terry is going to have a good time with her. He's going to regret getting so close to Claudia by the end of season 4. Of that, I have no doubt. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. Let's hope season 4 is as good as the last 3 seasons. And I'm still shocked that it's actually coming. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. That I can promise you. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.